Welcome. I'm Lisa Ludwig, the Executive Director of the Lower Eastern Shore Heritage Area, and thank you each and every one for coming. We really appreciate it. I'm going to turn the stage over now to our Board President, Dr. Ernest P. Boger. He's going to say a few words, and then we're going to cut loose for lunch. Dr. Boger.
Thank you. Okay, good morning, and welcome. Welcome to the 18th annual edition of the Lower Eastern Shore Heritage Area Council Luncheon Meeting and Heritage Awards Ceremony. I am Dr. Ernest P. Boger, Chairman of the Department of Hospitality and Tourism Management at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore. Go Hawks, okay? But more importantly for today, I stand before you as President of the Lower Eastern Shore Heritage Area Council, or LESH, for 2018. Let me welcome you also to the legendary Wicomico Youth and Civic Center, the preeminent vehicle in our heritage area for events and occasions of this magnitude. We are again this year being captured for posterity, so let me give a shout out to PAC 14 and our volunteer photographer again this year, Jerry Galitsky. And certainly we want to thank all of our prominent elected and appointed officials, public officials who are with us today. We also want to recognize Nancy Bradford, Vice President from the Bank of Ocean City. Where are you? You stand so we can see you. Thank you. The Bank of Ocean City is sponsoring our most prestigious Legacy Heritage Award for this year. So thank you again for that. Now we can do that. Reverend Weaver, would you come up, please, and give us the blessing for the meal? And while he's coming up, in fact, while he is up, I want to recognize a very special blessing. Yeah, I think that's a good word, blessing, today here in the personage of Mr. and Mrs. Donald Ludwig, who are celebrating their 64th wedding anniversary. Please stand for us. Now, you might recognize the surname because, in fact, these are the proud parents of our own precious Lisa Ludwig, Executive Director of LESH, okay? And I learned last year that Mr. Ludwig was actually a very serious carver, and I'm proud to have one of his items in my small collection. So he's one of us as well, not just a visitor. Thank you. And now, Reverend Weaver.
It's an honor to be back here with you again and to be a part of this wonderful conversation that we have on an annual basis about protecting our heritage and looking forward to the future while also continuously remembering the past. So I hope you enjoy the time together with like-minded individuals in the room and spend time learning from one another, not just at your own table, but moving about, because there's so much we have to learn from one another. And just thankful for Lisa and all those who allow us to have this conversation annually. So thank you for what you do in your own local areas where you're protecting our heritage and our history in your own little small part and way. So thank you for that. And a round of applause, if you would, for one another, because I think it's just phenomenal to be here together. Thank you. Now lead us in a brief word of prayer. Let's pray. Father, we thank you for gathering us once again, and we look forward to not only the meal, and pray blessing over that, but the conversations. We pray blessing over the dialogue that will happen here this morning, this afternoon, and the conversations that will stem from this as we share together in the protection of the history and legacy of the Lower Eastern Shore. Thank you for this community and also this location where we gather. We pray blessing over each table, each chair, each organization doing the work that we're doing. May we not feel alone. May we feel part of something much bigger than ourselves. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. I just want to share with you a few highlights of the year. Throughout the year, the LESH office with Executive Director Lisa Ludwig is busy at any given time with a myriad of deadlines, talks, outreach in our 3 communities, promoting our heritage area and scenic byways to anyone that will listen, providing mentoring, technical assistance, holding various workshops, overseeing capital, non-capital, and mini-grant applications and their assorted projects. We want to just share with you a couple of major highlights that we thought you'd like to hear about. First of all, the expansion of the certified heritage area. When the Allen Historical Society approached us at the beginning of last year to talk about rehabilitating a historic property, there was a lot to consider. The village of Allen, dating back to the early 1700s, although in the recognized heritage area, was not part of our state certified heritage area. We could certainly see a distinct value in working with the Allen Historical Society and saw potential. Approval from Maryland Heritage Area Authority is not an easy or short process, as many of you know. After many long months of deliberation, meetings, research, mapping, preparation, and planning, with some help from the Allen Historical Society, we are happy to say that we successfully expanded our state-certified heritage area for the first time since the 2002 original certification. I think that deserves an applause. We mentioned this was underway last year this time, so we can actually cite it as an actual accomplishment. This accomplishment has indeed allowed the Allen Historical Society to apply for an MHAA grant, resulting in a $30,000 award for the beginning restoration of the Huffington Polite House to become a museum and cultural center. We invite you to take a look at the Allen Historical Society exhibit today over here for a better overview of that. Funded grants. At the end of the day, it's all about the dollars and the economic impact, so let me just share a few facts and figures with you from that area. Ensuring heritage tourism-related projects is a directive of the Lower Eastern Shore Heritage Area. We are very proud to say last year, July, the total award of fiscal 18 project grants to LESH was $259,938. As you know, we're required to match everything, so with the required one-to-one matching funds, the leveraged result is $519,876. And with rapid calculation, we know that that's slightly over $500,000 of leverage, projects and dollars that stay right here in our lower three counties. I think we need another. Yeah. Our room today includes a countless number of volunteers and nonprofits coming together to honor our region's special assets and traditions. We particularly thank our council volunteers and sponsors who are listed on the recognition board and, of course, in the program. But I do want to recognize the sponsor tables, and let me see, they include, from my magic list here, the Ocean, and just hold your applause until we get them all, because of course, we want to thank again the Bank of Ocean City for sponsoring today's Legacy Award. But sponsor tables, other sponsor tables include the Ocean City Museum Society. I guess if one person kind of stands up or waves from that table, you know where you are. Got you, okay. The Delmarva Discovery Center, right here, okay. Friends of Teakle Mansion, okay. Somerset Lower County Historical Society. Okay, we don't see them, but we have the check, okay? Furnace Town, okay. The Furnace Town Living Heritage Village, right here. Town of Berlin, okay. Skipjack Heritage, Inc. All right, sail away. Preservation Trust, Wicomico. Okay. The Allen Historical Society. Allen's to my left here. Also, $100 sponsors include the Ocean City Development Corporation and the Lower Shore Land Trust. Please, a round of applause for all of our sponsors. And okay. Yes, these are my colleagues from the Tri-County area that give up their time and treasure to promote, preserve, and protect the historic, cultural, and natural assets of the Lower Eastern Shore. And they are listed on your program, and I'm going to use mine here. Okay, here we are. First of all, from Somerset County, yours truly, Ernest P. Boger, serving now, continuing as president. Mindy Burgoyne, secretary. Angie, Carolyn Fitzgerald, this is all Somerset County. Cynthia Stevens, Danny Thompson, Gail Yerges, Julie Woodison. And that's from Somerset. So let's give a hand for the Somerset people out there. From Worcester, we have Dr. Cynthia Bird, who serves as Vice President, Sandy Hurley, Ann Hillier, Glenn Irwin, who serves as Treasurer, Mona Margarita, Kate Patton, Patrick Rolfe, and Ivy Wells. For the Worcester County people. And our colleagues from Wycomico, Geraldine Bell, Sylvia Bradley, Matt Creamer, Alita Davis, John Hall, and John Lennox, who serves as past president, immediate past president, William Wilson, and Lee Whaley from Wycomico. Thank you all for your service. And now let me call Lisa forward, if you would, Ludwig, to do a special presentation.
Well, this is a special award, an Executive Director's Award that I decided really, this person really needed acknowledgement. She's not on our board, but she is a dedicated volunteer for how many years, I'm not sure. But I would like to personally recognize Debbie Kitt for all of her assistance every year, faithfully coming to help with this event. And without her, I don't know where I would be. So Debbie, if you would please come up, we have something special for you. Debbie will be retiring at the end of this month. And her husband Jim is here in attendance as well. So Debbie, we have a certificate of appreciation here for you. And we also have another special gift. Thank you. Okay. So this is recognition of Debbie Kitt for her years of loyalty, volunteer service, and invaluable assistance with the Lower Eastern Shore Heritage Area Annual Luncheon Meeting. Lower Eastern Shore Heritage Area Council is honored to present this certificate of appreciation. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
There you go, ma'am.
Thank you.
Here we go.
Okay, and now the moment, or the moments you have all been waiting for. And that is presentation of the 2018 Lesh Annual Heritage Award winners. And of course, plaques and certificates will be presented, including special certificates of recognitions from our 2 state senators and from our 2 U.S. Senators as well, okay? So you'll get several goodies here this afternoon. The Heritage Interpretation Award, the Heritage Interpretation. This award recognizes outstanding heritage interpretation of a heritage tourism product and is awarded to the sponsoring organization. Eligible products include exhibits, self-guided or guided tours, videotapes, interpretive brochures, publications, and websites. Dr. John Houston was Salisbury's first surgeon and tried to raise the money to build a hospital in Salisbury but failed, and therefore practiced medicine in his home, thus making Poplar Hill Mansion not only Salisbury's oldest home, but also Salisbury's first hospital. A meticulous reconstruction of a surgery room has been created, incorporating both antique furnishings of the period and reproductions for visitors to walk on a hand-painted canvas floor cloth and sit in. Unlike many historical house museums which rope off rooms, visitors are encouraged to come fully into the room for an historic immersion experience. I can't help this, but that doesn't include any surgery, does it? Okay. It's just a, okay, vicarious experience. All right. That's an evening tour. Okay. It says that the exhibit includes a brief video about surgery in the early 19th century and Dr. Houston's role as a surgeon, as well as the role of slaves doing surgery at Poplar Hill. The exhibit was the culmination of months of planning and has been well received by the community, including the City of Salisbury, physicians associated with PMRC, historians, business leaders, school groups, and everyday visitors. Ladies and gents, the 2018 Heritage Interpretation Award goes to the Friends of Poplar Hill Mansion for the Dr. Houston Surgery Room exhibit. And accepting the award is Sarah Myers. Sarah, please come forward. The next award is the Heritage Tourism Program Event Award. This award recognizes an outstanding heritage event, annual, special, or ongoing, lecture series, or other type of program that makes local heritage come alive. It does not necessarily take place at a historic site, but must have taken place within the past 3 years. A heritage program event informs, educates, and/or celebrates some aspect of local heritage. Furnace Town, Living Heritage Village, is a learning center for the study of our history, and it provides a concrete basis for ideas and traditions that help inform who we are and where we came from. Artisans dressed in period clothing work in and around the historic buildings using equipment and tools that date back to the early 1800s. The Folk School offers hands-on classes, demonstrations, and workshops led by skilled artisans from throughout the region that exemplify our cultural traditions. Workshops and programs enrich lives and build community by teaching traditional 19th century trades in a student-centered learning environment where current and future generations will continue this rich cultural legacy. Furnace Town receives generous support from our community, and as the Folk School grows, it will draw visitors from the Mid-Atlantic region and beyond. The Folk School preserves our history and culture in a way that draws people in and gives them a literal way of touching the past. Ladies and gentlemen, the award for Heritage Tourism event goes to the Furnace Town Folk School at Furnace Town, Worcester County. Patrick Roth, Director of Furnace Town, will be accepting the award. Now for the Best New Heritage Initiative. The Best New Heritage Initiative. Okay, new and heritage. So heritage is old, new is new. It's a nice juxtaposition there. This award recognizes programs, events, or products that represent new initiatives achieved in the last year by an individual or organization that educates the public by expanding understanding of or access to the area's rich heritage. The Saving What Matters Project, which picks up on what the young man asked me at lunch, the young man who's doing the interviews for the, yes, okay. Let's recognize him, by the way. What's his name there? Ryland, okay. He's our youngest volunteer as well, so we're glad to see you here, and this is what we're talking about, keeping it alive. But this relates to the answer that I gave him that you can find out by reading his article. Okay. The Saving What Matters Project, a continuous initiative that demonstrates the importance of the Lower Eastern Shore's rich maritime heritage to audiences outside the region, highlights the role of women in that heritage and encourages the careers of young culture workers. The first phase of the project, which has been taking place in Dames Quarter, Somerset County since January, has brought together local watermen, boat builders, and seafood industry workers with student documentation from Goucher College outside Baltimore. The resulting video vignettes feature the stories of women like Michelle Daniels, who are integral to the continued vitality of maritime culture, as well as reflections by the students on how their fieldwork will bear upon their professional aspirations. A particularly compelling aspect of Saving What Matters is its focus on women. While the importance of maritime trades to Lower Eastern Shore life and culture is indisputable, These trades have historically been characterized as the domain of men. Oystering, crabbing, boat building have so completely absorbed a masculine connotation that even their participants, watermen, are named as such by gender as by occupation. Okay? Never thought about that. The current efforts of CHA are an attempt to balance this perception. The Best New Heritage Initiative Award goes to the Coastal Heritage Alliance, and Mike Velasovich will be accepting that award, I do believe.
He's in Bosnia.
Oh, he's in Bosnia.
He's in Bosnia right now, continuing his project, and Nancy Goldsmith.
Nancy Goldsmith is going to accept for him. Okay.
Picture first.
Good afternoon. I'm pleased to accept this wonderful presentation on behalf of Mike Vladovich and the Coastal Heritage Alliance. Mike sent me some information that he'd like to share with you. I regret that I cannot be present to accept this award today, but want you to know that this important LESH recognition is something that Coastal Heritage Alliance deeply appreciates. I am currently on my way to Bosnia, where I will join 5 Maryland college students that will be delivering video stories that they created about Lower Eastern Shore maritime heritage. One is about the Deal Island Cream Devil Cake, so watch out, Smith Island. These stories focus primarily on women engaged in Maryland's unique maritime culture. In June, the Coastal Heritage Alliance will then host 5 Bosnian students here in Maryland as part of an International Student Heritage Exchange, a cultural program of the U.S. Department of State. The focus will be upon the efforts that Maryland residents are making to preserve the most valued aspects of their maritime way of life. This program is using Maryland's maritime heritage to improve international relationships between the United States and Bosnia, something that we should all take pride in. Thank you all.
So nice to hear something uplifting and cultural about Bosnia. You know, historically on the news we hear Bosnia, and then we wonder who's, what's happening now. So this is definitely a very upside for our day. Okay. The next award is the Heritage Interpreter of the Year. The Heritage Interpreter of the Year. This award recognizes an individual who is a heritage interpreter, docent, educator, tour guide, volunteer in a nonprofit or for-profit heritage organization who provides outstanding factual and educational information to the public. Our award recipient today has been a driving force of several heritage organizations for many years and a valuable volunteer in particular to the Ocean City Museum Society. Not only does she serve on the board, but she also gives of her time by helping out with school field trips and various other group tours and special events. For the past 3 years, she has committed to hosting Stories from the Past, one of several free summer programs that are held on the boardwalk in July and August. This program is held once a week and runs for 8 weeks. It is free to the public and offers educational information on the history of Ocean City along with personal anecdotes only a true local can share. A lifelong resident of Worcester County with strong family ties to the town of Ocean City, as well as the U.S. Life-Saving Service Coast Guard, is one of the many reasons she is a valuable resource when it comes to our heritage. By doing research and using her own first-hand knowledge, she has been able to develop quality programs and presentations for a variety of interests. In the past few years, she has given such presentations on behalf of the Museum Society to dozens of groups and clubs. Our awardee has graciously served as a docent, interpreter, speaker, or someone to man a display table at an event. She has donated her valuable time in the past to help with a variety of clerical tasks, as well as accessioning a vast collection of photographs that were donated to the Museum Society by Arthur Bunk Mann. The Heritage Interpreter of the Year award goes to Mabel Midget Rogers.
How are you feeling? Oh, doing great.
The Legacy Award. The Legacy Award. This award recognizes an individual or group who continues or preserves a traditional craft or livelihood, a craftsperson, waterman, farmer, quilter, musician, boat builder. Since 1893, this family business has been a staple of Ocean City. All right. It's impossible to think of Ocean City without imagining the Tremper family's amusements on the boardwalk. The carousel and roller coaster are images burned into the memories of generations of visitors. Only a family with drive and dedication could continue to keep its business appealing to nearly 8 million visitors a year. Daniel Tremper's obituary, published in the Democratic Messenger in 1929, stated, "He was engaged in the promotion of all kinds of amusements and was deeply interested in the advancement of Ocean City." Mr. Tremper was a kindly, courteous gentleman and was a very popular citizen. Starting out with a single lot on the boardwalk, he built an amusement complex that has stood the test of time, surviving storms and maintaining its appeal to multiple generations of summer visitors. The year 2018 marks 125 years of operation of Tremper's Rides under the leadership of one extraordinary family. The mantle of this exemplary family has come to rest on the shoulders of two of the younger Trempers. Not only are they keeping the legendary business alive, they are deeply involved in the local community. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to announce that the 2018 Legacy Award goes to the Tremper family, and accepting the awards are grandsons Brooks and Chris Tremper. Please come forward.
As you can see, I am just one of Brooks and Chris Tremper. My brother is at home awaiting the arrival of their third child. His wife is due today, so any minute. I received this award on behalf of my family. My grandfather took my brother and I under his wing, Granville Tremper. He received this same award 10 years ago and took my brother and I under his wing when we came out of college and got us involved with every association, every group, every part of Ocean City that you can think of. He was involved in, and he decided it was too much for one person to split between my brother and I, ranging from the Downtown Association, the OCDC, AGH Hospital. We're both in the Lions Club, the Ocean City Fire Department. We're very, very involved, and we're very happy to continue the Tremper legacy. Very humbled to receive an award like this, but 125 years is a long time. As I was talking over lunch, I'm just kind of coming in here on the tail end and getting all the credit. But my brother and I and the rest of the Tremper family, because it is a family business, it's more than just the two of us. We're all very involved. Appreciate this award, and we'll do our best to continue the legacy.
If you open up your encyclopedia, I guess we still have those, and look in there, and on that page you'll see a picture of the Tremper family under involvement. The Heritage Award. This award recognizes an individual or organization for significant and long-lasting contributions to the community by interpreting, preserving, and promoting, researching, and or supporting local history and heritage. Our award recipient has been an ardent advocate for the traditional arts and heritage of the Eastern Shore for nearly 50 years. In that time, he has shown himself to be an artist of the highest caliber, whose work and opinions have been sought by collectors, makers, museums, folklorists, and enthusiasts across the country, and I would say around the globe. As a practitioner of one of the traditional arts that is close to the heart of the Eastern Shore, decoy making, He has shown himself to be an advocate for traditional lifeways on the shore and a standard bearer for the artists and artisans of the area. Moreover, he has demonstrated a strong dedication to the continuation of decoy making and traditional arts through his active teaching and apprenticeships for decoy making. I understand it's here. Teaching has been an ongoing line of engagement for this awardee, spreading from informal partnerships to large-scale class offerings across the region. He has worked with over 2,000 students over the course of his career and at least throughout 6 states. Volunteerism with the organizations like the Ward Foundation has helped to sustain and further the artistic field for which he is quite possibly the elder statesman. Yes. Given his artistic achievements, dedication to passing on his craft, and his tireless volunteer efforts, we could not find a more ideal honoree. Not to mention, he is our keynote speaker that you will hear from later on today. Our Heritage Award for 2018 goes to Rich Smoker. Please come forward if you will.
Thank you, sir. Is it possible to meet this guy?
There you go, sir.
Wow,
Put your name on it and everything.
Holy mackerel.
Want to say a few words before you say a few words?
I don't really know what to say other than this whole thing is a labor of love, and I can't do it without the people behind me, who push me constantly. The Ward Museum, my wife, and my 2 ex-apprentices that are sitting at the table too. Thank you very much. I hope to live up to this. Thank you.
Now on to the T. O'Connor Professional Award. This award recognizes an individual, author, archaeologist, architect, exhibits, publication designer, historian, landscape designer, preservationist, professional staff person, or researcher for significant contributions to the enhancement of local history and heritage tourism. Growing up in Allen, our honoree was a keen observer of village life and people. As a result, he became an informed genealogist, historian, and a mover-shaker in the village for the greatest part of his adult life. He has devoted himself to preserving the history of an area in a multitude of ways. Using his considerable writing skills, he has documented Allen's past in 2 books, Changing Times, Chronicle of Allen, Maryland, and Eastern Shore Village, and the Huffingtons, Ancestors and Descendants of Jonathan Huffington, Jr. In addition, he has written articles about local Civil War figure Clara Gunby, and another, The Lynching of Garfield King. Both appeared in Shorelines, a publication of the NAB Center at Salisbury University. Although he and his wife currently reside in Chestertown, Maryland, he regularly returns to Allen to help with community, church, and historical society events. He remains a quiet, modest, but mighty presence in the life of Allen and the Allen Historical Society. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to announce the 2018 T. O'Connor Heritage Professional Award goes to Dr. George Shivers. Please, would you come forward?
I'd like to thank Lesh for this award. It means a great deal to me. And I would also like to thank them for their marvelous support of the Allen Historical Society, helping us to get included in the heritage area. And I'd like to thank the Allen Historical Society members who have been such a wonderful support over the years. I guess my interest in local history started when I was a senior in high school, when they used to, in Wicomico County, give an award for a historical article by a graduating senior. I don't know if they still do that. I wrote about Allen. It was probably a very mediocre essay, and I didn't win the prize, but that started an interest which has continued ever since, and hopefully my writings since then have been of more merit. Thank you.
And how about another big round of applause for all of our winners here today? I'll save some good news here. I talked a little bit earlier about the impact of the Heritage Area Council, but I want to share this with you too. For 21 years in the Maryland Heritage Area Program, there had only been a certain amount of funds available for grants, which has been $3 million. With now having 13 heritage areas that cover every county in the state of Maryland, this has become a challenge to fund projects. This has greatly bothered our 13 heritage area directors, led by our director here. Maybe not led by, but certainly collaborated by and with. Starting in 2016, however, there was an extraordinary effort to make change happen for our communities in a positive way. The heritage area directors worked tirelessly with the added support and efforts of then Delbert Wilson, Tourism Director, Dan Spedden, Senator Edward Casimir. This effort resulted in two bills. Two bills were passed at the end of May 2017 to raise the funding cap, and both have now been approved in the governor's fiscal 19 budget to be funded annually at $6 million, So through their efforts, we now have a doubling of the funds available for the support of heritage areas in the state of Maryland. So let's please give a round of applause for that. And certainly a nod to all of our legislators who made that happen. Yes, are there other heritage area directors in the room in addition to Ms. Amanda Fenstermaker? Please stand if you would. Okay. And that's the Heart of the Chesapeake Heritage Area. Okay, this is the easiest task that I have today here, introducing our speaker. He has already received an award today, so you've heard a few of the good things about him. These days they say if you want to find out something, Google it. So I asked Google and got about 12 pages, Yes, and I read them all, but here's the thing, when I first Googled it, they came up with these pictures of pit barbecues. Rich Smoker that came up with these, and I said, well, wait a minute, that's not quite I'm looking for a person, not for a barbecue pit. I guess that probably happens a lot. But in any case, if you want to know the full story, Google it and get yourself a nice glass of local craft brewed beer or whatever your pleasure is, and you'll enjoy that. So I'm not going to say too much more here, but I do want to point out just a couple of things. One, that he was born in the Susquehanna region of our state next door, Pennsylvania, but in the early 80s moved to Marion Station, and the Bible says near Chrisfield, but we know that, don't we? So I thought that was interesting. He has a background in taxidermy. I think we all know what that is, hopefully. Okay, yeah. And as a result, I understand has given him over the years, and he can tell you when he comes up, far more insight into the anatomy and all that sort of thing about the birds than other carvers, shall we say. And of course, moving here and focusing and picking up on and paying homage to the Ward brothers, since the early 80s, crafted several thousand birds. That just boggles my mind, several thousand birds. And then with his apprentices and classes and stuff, he's given birth to maybe another 10,000 birds. So that's a lot of birds out there, And if you look on the table, there are 6 or 7 or 8 there. When I walked in, I saw them. I had this instinct to go get my shotgun because they're so real. I almost did that, but I didn't. I restrained myself. So, as you read through his bio, you'll find phrases like living legend, elder statesman, gold standard of master craftsman. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the dais our keynote speaker for today, Mr. Rick Smoker, please. And I hope you know who that person is.
I haven't seen him today. To say I'm a little terrified is an understatement. My father used to introduce me, and I like your introduction much better. My father used to introduce me as, "This is my son Rich. He was born ignorant, and he's been losing ground ever since." We went to Annapolis last year, Kent Kimmel, the chairman of the board of directors, and myself, to testify at Annapolis for the Canvasback bill with Senator Mathias. And I was introduced as dazed and confused. The rest of the day, the guy introduced me to the other people, said, "This is Dave Confused." That'll seem to be working well for me. My name's Rich Smoker. I am tickled to death to be here. Don't forget to pay your bartender. Thanks a lot. I am glad to see that we got rid of some of the riffraff in here that went home. There is one thing that I have noticed right away, and it was handed this slip before I stepped to the podium, is that table you left all your lights in your car on. That scares me too. A quote that I really love, and I like to start out with this. "We will be known forever by the tracks we leave." An American Indian proverb. I think it means so much to a group like this. Growing up in Selinsgrove, Pennsylvania, on the banks of the Susquehanna River, I knew at a very young age I was a water person. Turning over rocks to see nymphs, hellgrammites, and crayfish, seeing the herons, muskrats, and mink, the waterfowl that used the river. Water progressed to fishing. Fishing progressed to tying trout flies. I realized that my hands were meant to create. From the first duck hunt, using my dad's decoy, who went in cahoots with some other guys, and he got the real cahoots. He got one duck call and one decoy out of it, and his oldest son took it. I was hooked. I remember the day. It was crisp and clear. The water was gin clear and flowing as I watched the decoy swim tethered to the bottom by its anchor rope and line. A duck hunter was born. No one in my family hunted ducks. My grandfather hunted rabbits. My dad was a pheasant hunter and a deer hunter. I was never a fan of the mountain hunting, so life at Water's Edge was meant for me. I started reading and studying everything about ducks and decoys I could get my grubby little paws on, and still do, I might add. My first book came at Christmas 1968, Duck Decoys and How to Rig Them by Ralph Kuykendall. Inside, the author showed me a whole new brave world in my estimation. A world of handmade decoys by makers from around the country. Ben Schmidt from Michigan, Shane Wheeler from Connecticut, two people that stick in my mind and still are burned into my retinas. I vowed I would own a decoy from each of those makers' hands, and I'm here to report that I don't. I have cashed those chips in, and I own War Brothers decoys. Locals. Mr. Kuykendall include photos of pioneers of decoy collecting and a decoy contest. A decoy contest. People made decoys for use and contests. I'd arrived. Being in school and sports, I had no money. I decided to make my own decoys. My father was a high school industrial arts teacher. At that time, it meant wood shop. I hooked him into joining me as he loved to create projects also. We set about to make a rig of 20 decoys. I would steal away from study halls to work on the project. Not long after, I dropped out of French class to work on it also. I'm serious. 3 years of French down a drain. I visited the library to study species and anything on this new obsession. The only thing I did learn was, "Où est la bibliothèque?" And I found the library every time. The decoys that my father and I made, there's 2 of them on my table down here. We did those in 1969, and they served me for many years until I started making different ones. But they're still on my collection, and I hope to maybe bequeath them to the Ward Museum at some time. I've already been told that if I put enough money on the bottom of them, they'd take them. Boom, boom. You want to come up here and hit the cymbal? As you can see, our first examples were crude. I feel the love. They were crude, but they were deployed on the water on every occasion available during the fall and winter sports seasons. Dad included carving in his repertoire at the shop, making a course for the rest of the kids who were coming along after that. After graduation, my inspiration led me to Sheets's Market on the beautiful downtown Isle of Q in Selinsgrove, Pennsylvania, with Mr. George Sheets. He was a dyed-in-the-wool duck hunter. He had an expensive decoy, a very expensive decoy user, a great blind, the best blinds in that area on the Susquehanna. He taught me the ropes of decoying, blinds, and all the aspects of the hunt. I, in turn, would be the caretaker of the decoys, repair and repainting, blind placement and grassing. George would hunt until 8 a.m. Or earlier, and I would motor him ashore. He would then open a store. I would get to hunt for another hour or so, pick up the decoys, and report for work at the grocery store. In the fall, George would display his collection of mounted ducks, all taken on the Susquehanna, in his store. The mounts and the beautiful plumage got me interested in getting some of my own mounted. Setting foot in the taxidermist shop, I knew I was in the right place, as he had mounts of birds and animals from all over the world. Subsequent ducks meant more visits and dialogue about ducks, their decoy, the habits, decoys, and books. Finally, the taxidermist, Wilson Elwood Diddy, offered me a job, an entry-level apprenticeship that would last for the next last for the next 9 years. But I did get paid. My friends went to college. I went to Wilson E. Diddy Tech without a t-shirt. To my surprise, his studio handled between 7 to 10 major hunting trips from around the world each year. This included many animals and birds. My main focus in the studio was to be birds and small mammals. I lucked into learning more about birds and decoys as Mr. Diddy carved also. For a man who never graduated high school, he was extremely intelligent. I was always told education isn't knowing everything, but where to find the knowledge. Something I still believe and use today. Diddy had a tremendous book collection, thousands of books, rare books. He was the first man I ever met who had an Audubon elephant folio, and John Gooley Milas's Books of Australia, 2 really out extinct books. Gooley Milas's book, is only 8 of them known in the world, and he had 1. I got to paw through that one too, much I didn't want to tell him. I had free rein to look and read anything I wanted. The inspiration was amazing. I learned of hummingbirds from South America, torcos from Africa, the birds of paradise from New Guinea, and the ducks, geese, and swans of North America. I especially love the ducks of Europe and Asia. I learned anatomy on my workbench. I learned world species, ID, and life histories from Diddy and his books. And he had books on decoys and carving. Wow, I'd lucked into it. My father and Diddy became great friends and would carve almost every evening. When I'd come in to work in the morning, they would leave their projects laying around on their benches. I could see what they had done the night before. Sometimes I would carve on their birds because I felt they didn't get the anatomy quite right. That lasted till I got busted and told not to touch their work anymore, but to do my own, which at the time I was doing. Anyway, I did learn that the quicker you make mistakes, the quicker you get better. So why not make the mistakes on their birds? I may look stupid, but I'm not. From Mr. Diddy, we learned of this fledgling Ward Foundation in Salisbury, Maryland, and its exhibition set for October in the Salisbury Civic Center. A trip was planned. I still remember driving into Salisbury and looking at a concrete road. I'd never seen a concrete road before. This is amazing. This is pretty cool to see something like. When this bumpkin walked into the Civic Center, my path in life was now solidified. I was introduced to the Ward brothers, Lem and Steve, who were friends of Mr. Diddy. He mounted birds for them. As a matter of fact, birds for the Ward brothers came across my bench, and he wouldn't let me touch them because he wanted to mount them, even though I was better at it than he was. I can say that now. He's not with us. I didn't mean it. Through Diddy, I met some of the early decoy collectors. Summers Headley from New Jersey, Norris Pratt from Delaware, Tom Eschenbach from Pennsylvania. They told me of decoys and their makers, history of decoys, different styles for different areas. I was in decoy overload. Through Eschenbach, I learned of how market hunting was on the Susquehanna River. In right the area, the exact area that I hunted, there used to be a market hunter that would live there. From this exhibition, I learned of tools, paints, different styles. The whole world of bird carving unfolded. I purchased a new knife and a Charles Birdsall sculp. I still have both of those from 1972 purchases. I came home refreshed with a new career path in sight. I needed new skills, needed to learn more about woods to use, paints and painting. I needed to incorporate anatomy into my style. I needed to get some help and inspiration from additional sources. Alongside the Susquehanna River, I found Jim Swineford, who made decoys and boats. He dried his own wood. He taught me how to do my own, dry wood and decoys. He even gave me models for my carving, which I still have today. Bob Ludwig lived down the street. He made decoys. He hunted and fished the river. He was an Algerine. That's a term they used up there for somebody that was always on the water, which was a beautiful thing considering what he did was he showed motion pictures at night, and he could fish and hunt all day long. That's much better than my dad said when I was going to graduate from high school. I was going to be a professional groundhog hunter. And, thinking back, it might not have been a bad idea. I was shown the proper way to float and set decoys and how to tell different duck species in flight. Uncle Art Smith knew decoys and ducks as he was a game bird breeder and decoy collector. While in Mr. Diddy's employ, one morning I came into work and found a wolf skin on my bench. It was apparent it was my work for the day, but there was no mannequin to mount it on. When I asked to the plan, I was handed the leg bones and told to sculpt my own mannequin. No skull to use for measurements. They came from the skin. 2 days later, I finished. It was his test to see if I had learned anything and could be self-sufficient. I had passed the test. For those of you who don't know, taxidermy is two Greek words, taxi and dermy. Taxi means to fit, and dermy means skin, so loosely it means to fit skin. I left Mr. Diddy's employment in 1979, went out on my own with my own studio, recently married to my wonderful wife Nancy, and now able to specialize in my favorite forms of taxidermy. I did lots and lots of dioramas, incorporating habitat into each mount. Taxidermy competitions were just starting, and I was able to compete and win, but something was missing. Taxidermy allowed my artistic side to emerge, but I was still sculpting the mannequins under the skin, but the skin was covered. The skin covered my work. I needed to do and show my complete work, not to cover it with a tan skin. My desire to carve grew deeper, and I found myself carving in every spare moment. 1983, our fates changed as Nancy and I moved to Crisfield, Maryland, so she could take a job with Somerset County Public School System working as a computer specialist. I was one step closer to my dream of carving birds as my career. Over the next year and a half, I finished my backlog of taxidermy. I was free to sculpt wildfowl and decoys that would be seen as my own work from start to finish. I was quick to note that while carve was singular, it really incurred two disciplines, sculpture and painting. Both must be mastered in the same piece of work to be a success. My past work with anatomy helped me perfect my carving skills. I found it so much more gratifying to work from the outside in than from the inside out, as in taxidermy. Painting and color were a stumbling block for me. With no formal art training, I had to work overtime, take some color theory seminars, talk to other artists to break through. I learned by doing is the only way I can do it, mixing paints. Primary colors, secondary colors, tertiary colors, aggressive, receding, complementary, split complementary, triad, tint, tone, shade, value became my vocabulary until it all sank in, and I might add, hooray. My wife used to come back while I was struggling with paint and look at me and say, a little black, a little white. How hard can this be? I'm going to be in trouble. I promise not to say that. The work and research continues. It'll never stop, I hope, because it never does, because then I would be satisfied. I'm never satisfied with anything. Competitive bird and decoy carving has always been important to me. This has been a way to improve my skills and achieve my goals. I've been fortunate to win over 500 ribbons and over 100 Best of Shows, and at this point right now I'm close to 4,000 birds that I've carved in my almost 50 years of carving. Well, actually my 50 years of carving. I'm only 28. It's been a tough year. Including a third best in the world with a miniature owl, a long-eared owl, and a best in world title with 2 red-breasted mergansers and a red-throated loon. A personal goal was realized with that win. I still enjoy competition, but I find producing the best work my hands can do is my satisfaction. I have recognized that giving back is not just important, but I feel an obligation. For that reason is why I spend more time teaching carving classes, speaking about the art form, old decoys, and volunteering. My records indicate that I have taught over 210 carving seminars since 1990 and well over 2,000 people attending. I just can't get repeats. Giving back doesn't include contemporary work, as we cannot have the future without the past. The early days of decoys means just as much to me as my current work. Sharing the history coupled with contemporary work, the past and the future, has led me to the Ward Museum, the largest and most progressive museum of wildfowl art in the world. I recognized early that there were few carvers working behind the scenes. Most would complain, but few would volunteer time to help with committees, carving rules, which would help level all the playing fields for competitors. This is where I find myself today, a working artist, volunteering almost as many hours as I work for myself. If I didn't think this important, I wouldn't have spent the last 22 years on the Board of Ed. That's my wife. I'm on the Board of Directors. Now an officer, I'm the vice chairman, or as Professor Kimmel would say, I'm in charge of vices. I'm also the board liaison. Hey, I can speak French. Liaison is a French word, I do believe. Board liaison to the competition committee, chair of the curatorial committee. The staff seems like family to me, as they are so dedicated to the art form and the goals. For that, I thank them, and I will applaud them. Laura Bottinelli and Jackson Mendel. I also work with other groups. I'm secretary of the Carving Committee at the Waterfowl Festival in Easton, Maryland, the advisory board of the Crisfield Heritage Museum. I work closely with Maryland Traditional Arts programs. I've been inducted to the Hall of Fame, Waterfowl Festival. My brother says I've been indicted. Received a Lifetime Achievement Award from the ALTA from Maryland Traditional Arts, but the Living Legend Award from the Ward Museum is very near and dear to my heart. The future, frankly, it looks bright to me. Last weekend, my granddaughter, who was 8, sorry. It means so much to me to see her at 8 years old and her first bird Did it all by herself. Keep your grubby paws off of it, Grandpa. I'm sorry about that. I generally don't blubber. Did I mention your car lights are on? The police are waiting for you. I know how to do it. Free beer in the lobby. She did tell me to keep my grubby paws off her bird. She calls me Grump Paw. Why, I don't know. This, by the way, is, I'll get into them later. Let's see if I can get my eyes to work again. I'm sorry. I know you paid for somebody full time, but you know. My family is still involved with carving. My father, of course, carved. My mother, of course, carved and painted. I had two sisters that carved and painted. I had one sister that drew flies. I've got a brother who carves and paints just like I do, and he teaches quite a bit, along with other family members, nephews, great-nephews. My current and second program with Maryland Traditional Arts Program as their Master Apprentice program, I have a grandfather and grandson involved, and that meets on Wednesday night. I have Kenny Glasgow right here. He's the grandfather, he's not the grandson. And I also have Uncle Larry Beecham. He's the other, he's only 26 too. He's had a rough life. They come to my shop on Wednesday nights and I teach all three of them carving. And it's very rewarding to me to have them all there. I'm working with a friend in Chincoteague also who will be teaching his first carving class this spring, trying to get him done. My brother and a good friend of mine calls that table over there Rent-A-Friends. My wife sends them all money to come here to pretend they are my friend. The future is bright as long as support for organizations like this continues. Please continue to support the Ward Museum and all programs of the Lower Eastern Shore Heritage Council. My future is bright also, but I do want to be clear about this, that without my wife's help and continuing support, my dream would have never been fulfilled. Thank you, Nancy. You see, when you read this last night, I didn't put that in. That went in this morning. A quote by Louis Nizer is a gift I give to all of my students at appropriate times. A man who works with his hands is a laborer. A man who works with his hands and his brain is a craftsman. A man who works with his hands, his brain, and his heart is an artist. I tell them this to help them inspire them towards their own visions. I am often asked, where do you get your inspiration and your ideas? My short answer is nature. The long answer is walk out your door. Shakespeare said it best when he said, one touch of nature makes the whole world kin. Truer words are never spoken. I look at the leaves and see a trail of drop of dew leaves on it. Tree bark with its cryptic patterns. The sun shining on a grove of trees, leaving the dappled, ever-changing shadows. Last year's leaves compacted on the forest floor with their sawtooth edges. The constant motion of the water on the river. The marshes with the waving grasses. Uncle Larry's farm with his familiar landscape but always changing views. I'm inspired to keep creating pieces that others might enjoy. I also inspired to continue working with others who want to learn how to do this art form and continue it and pass it on to another generation. And finally, I hope that working with the Ward Museum, Lower Eastern Shore Heritage, and others, that I will and they will continue to support this art form in their visions. There's one thing that I would say, and I'm not sure of the gender, but it is Latin, sumus, quaed sumus, we are what we are. Thank you very much. Done? Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for those amazing words of inspiration, and which shows what can happen when you turn a passion, so to speak, passion into a career.
Thank you all so much for coming. This concludes our 2018 annual luncheon meeting. We do hope to see you again next year. Have a good afternoon.